decision to exercise is that commitment that says, you know what? Exercise is our medicine. Because if Gordon didn't exercise, he'd have to take a pill. It's gotten to that point in his life, exercise or pill, or eat healthy or take another pill. And we're at a point where we're choosing an hour going up and down Badger. So I show you this picture because we have an attendee here that took us up on our offer. We actually try to go up Badger every day. Gordon is more wholehearted about doing it rain or shine. I'm kind of one of those fair weather hikers, kind of. But on occasion, I will put on an extra layer of clothes and a hat and venture up Badger, even in the snow. And so if anybody is interested in going up Badger with us, just text us or call us or pull us aside after tonight's meeting or another meeting next in the months to come and let us know your interest, because you get the best cardio going up Badger and coming down. Now, there's two ways to go up Badger. There is the gradual switchback. That's the scenic route that takes you up to the summit. Or you can do the die-hard. Gordon and I, we kind of like we want to get our medicine and get down as fast as possible. So we'll go up the canyon and come back down. And don't worry, there are benches along the way if you want to take a break. And when you even get to the top of the summit, there's actually rock benches for you to sit on as well. I chuckle because after Sharon came up with us, we ran into them. Does anybody remember them? They come to our health events as well. Brian and Jessica, I got their permission to put this picture up, and it was such a fun encounter because they weren't expecting to see us, and we sure weren't expecting to see them. And one of the highlights for Gordon and I when we go up Badger every day is that we've actually gotten acquainted with a lot of community people. And so there was a couple that we met on the trail. You know, when you pass each other on the trail saying good morning, hi, pretty soon you start conversing like, oh, what's your name? And we got to tell them about Journey to Bethlehem. I don't know if any of you went through Journey to Bethlehem last weekend, but they came through Journey to Bethlehem last weekend, just from that encounter on Badger. With that being said, we want to start on time, and so if you'll bow your heads with me, we'll say a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for who you are and how much you love us. Lord, we pray that you help us grasp new cooking ideas and more ways of taking care of our hearts. And Lord, you're the master physician, so we just pray for you to heal us from the inside out. Be with us tonight and bless our time together. In Jesus' powerful name, amen. Amen. We have Ruth Wright, a member of the Kennewick Adventist Church, and she is going to take over with demoing some healthy meals.
Thank you, Becky. We're the newest members here at Kennewick Church. We've been coming here for a year, but Miss Becky didn't give up on us and kept inviting us to her home. And little did we know she was working on us. When are you going to join us? So anyway, here we are. And we're so glad to be part of Kennewick Church. My background is nursing, but food is my passion. And I worked at Loma Linda University for a while and did some cooking shows on Loma Linda Broadcasting, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is what I enjoy doing. So anyway, we're going to start with the first recipe, and it's the lentil soup. The whole there's 3 recipes that I'm going to do, and they are Mediterranean food. A lot of people want to get on the Mediterranean diet, and they want to lose weight, and they feel that it's very, very healthy. Little do they know that some aspects of the Mediterranean diet is not very healthy. They put a lot of olive oil in it and a lot of other things that are not quite healthy. But I've made a healthier version of it. So we're going to start with the lentil soup. And those of you who haven't figured out what red lentils are, they're kind of orangish to me, you know. So anyway, but they are the quickest. All of the recipes that I'm going to share with you, I got all of the prep done and the cooking done in about an hour. All 3 recipes, so they're very quick. These are the fastest cooking lentils that you can come across. So, so you put 5 cups of water in the pot, and then put the lentils in. They tend to be really cloudy, so if you want to wash them really, really good until the water is clear, that would be good. So what happens is there's a white foam that comes on top. So I usually don't put any of the other ingredients in it until I get the foam off. It's not going to hurt you. You can leave it in, but it's just good to clean it, the skim it off. So then we're going to put some carrots in it. And I hope everyone has the recipe. And notice I didn't normally saute the onions and the vegetables in oil, lots of oil, but we're not going to put any oil at all. And then we're going to put some potatoes in there. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Salt goes next. Onion powder and turmeric powder. So you just let it boil in about 30 minutes or so. Just make sure you keep an eye on it because it tends to overflow and boil over. And then after it's all done and the vegetables are tender, you take the immersion blender and blend all the vegetables until they're smooth. And then at the end, you put some lemon juice, half a teaspoon of lemon juice, and some cilantro. And you're going to get to taste all of these recipes. Okay, that was the first recipe. Okay, so the next one is Arabic salad. Okay, so you take cucumbers, dice them really small, and then 1 whole pickle, and I chopped it really, really fine. Then go the red onions, and then we're going to put the green onions in there. Now the bell peppers, the recipe calls for boiling the red bell peppers, but I just kind of shocked it. Shocking is part of the cooking process, and for 1 minute you put it in boiling water and just drain it and put it in cold water. But if you like them raw, you're absolutely welcome to do that. Doesn't that look like a Christmas salad? Yes. And then we're going to put chickpeas. Chickpeas, 1 cup of chickpeas is equivalent to a piece of steak. So it's full of protein. And then we're going to put some dill. Dill is very pungent, so I tend to put just a tiny bit in there because it just gives it a really nice Mediterranean flavor. And some cilantro. Mix it all up. And then the dressing is 1 tablespoon of pomegranate juice. So they sell this pomegranate molasses at the Mediterranean store, but what you can do is get some pomegranates, now it's in season, blend it, and the pomegranate juice, you just reduce it, just boil it until it's thick. So you could do that as well. So it's 1 tablespoon of pomegranate juice, 1 pinch of salt, and 1 tablespoon of lemon. All of the recipes that I've made, I've put very little salt in it because it's not good for you. And I used to eat a lot of salt, and my husband will vouch for that. I used to have a salt shaker next to me for every recipe, every meal that I used to eat. But living with him for 34 years, I've learned to live a healthy life now. So anyway, that's... And your salad is ready. Now, what I don't have in the recipe is, you could do all kinds of variations with your food. Being a holiday time, it's Christmas, and you can put some pomegranate in it. You could dress it up with some parsley. There you go. That's your salad. And it looks pretty appetizing. So the third recipe is homemade hummus. And one of the Arabic ladies, I was doing it wrong the whole time. I've been making hummus for a long time. But what she told me was that there's a few secrets that you really have to, if you want really nice and smooth hummus, is to warm up your peas most of the time. I'm not, when I was growing up, I was not used to opening up a can. So when I came to the United States, I was like, they really put the food in the cans, because we were used to eating fresh. Everything was fresh. We used to soak the peas and then boil them and all that fun stuff. So what this lady said was, even if you're taking them out of the can, you boil them for a little bit in boiling water, and it's smoother. It gives a smoother texture. How many of you know what tahini is? You know what tahini is? It's sesame seeds, just blended sesame seeds. And I did get a chance to go to the Mediterranean store and found one that didn't have any oil in it. It's just straight tahini. So, and then we're going to put some garlic. And a little bit of cumin. And one other trick she told me was to put 3 ice cubes in it. Yes. And she told me to put oil in it, but I didn't. So you'll see when you taste the hummus that I made, it's very smooth, very tasty, without the oil. It's very, very healthy. Sorry, I'm going to make a little noise here. I'm sorry? In boiling water, about 5 minutes. Yeah. Because they're already cooked. So all you're doing is just warming them up. And yes, no water, nothing. Just let it run for a little while and it just kind of breaks down in its own oil. Yeah. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Yes. And it'll say that it's stone ground sesame paste and no salt, no cholesterol. And ingredients is just sesame seeds.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Here, go ahead.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Here.
Oh, yes.
You were saying that Mediterranean store. Where are you referring to?
Good question. It's called Basra,
Where's that?
B-A-S-R-A, and I'll give you the contact.
Okay.
It's right, do you know where the, on Clearwater, near the license, where you get your license plate,
Okay.
yeah, driver's license and that kind of
Oh.
thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'll be happy to give you the contact number and address.
Ruth,
Yes.
can you read?
Hi. Somewhat. The ice cubes? Well, her reasoning, and that was my question to her as well. I said, she said it kind of heats up the hummus. It heats up the hummus when you're blending it, and then the ice cubes, they cool it down and make it smoother, and it works. I didn't know until very recently, so it worked. And this is how I serve it at home for my friends and family.
Are there any more questions for Ruth? All right, I had a chance to sample this, and this was absolutely delicious, and particularly the hummus. I know Ruth spent hours working on this, and so we're very appreciative of this, and thank you for doing this. Let's give a hand to Ruth for demonstrating this for us. So I'm going to have everybody move back to the tables. I think it'll be easier. The chairs will be back here, being moved to each one of the surrounding tables. There will be chairs, so you don't have to bring those chairs with you.
sides
Oh.
of an ice.
Testing. Yeah, great. So thank you everyone for coming today. I think this is a very important talk, and it's about heart disease and diabetes, or not diabetes, cholesterol. But I wanted to go over some of the things we learned from last month. And so that's what we're going to do right now, just go over a few slides on diabetes. And this is close to my heart because I have diabetes. I already know that. So we had a talk or study that was showing that if you eat red meat, 2 servings of red meat per week, you're at increased risk for getting type 2 diabetes. And this study came from the Harvard School of Public Health, and it was just published probably like a month ago. And it had almost 250,000 participants, study subjects. And it showed that if you ate, the people that ate the most red meat during this time period had a 62% higher risk of developing diabetes. So if you eat red meat, you're going to have a higher chance of having diabetes. And this is compared to people who eat the least amount of red meat. And each additional serving of processed red meat, so processed is what? Processed is like hot dogs, sausages, beef jerky or something, versus non-processed, which is regular meat that you buy in the supermarket. They showed that you had a 46% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes versus if you ate unprocessed red meat, you only had a 24% risk of developing diabetes. So this was a big study that showed that you eat red meat, you're going to eventually probably develop diabetes, type 2 diabetes. It's also, they found that if you eat a plant-based diet, a healthy plant-based diet, you had a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. So substituting the red meat for things like nuts and legumes lower your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And this also included eating nuts and seeds and tofu. So there was a big study, and it came from a very good source, and they did a very good job in organizing this study. And they had a lot of people that were in on the study. The other one right here was, this is from also about diabetes, is that they were looking at diabetes and they're looking for what causes people to die. They had it was a conference, they had 500 researchers, and they had 300 institutions like universities in 50 countries. And what they found was in the US, they determined the biggest killer in the US was what we ate. And the most important dietary risk was not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And it was in Lancet in 2012. And this is a pretty big, big magazine that's a very prestigious magazine to get published in. So 75 to 150 minutes of moderate exercise every day, and 2 days of like strength training, not pushing heavy weights, but just doing some strength training, so your muscles get more tone in it. And if you don't have this, you're more risk for developing all types of diseases. And one thing I noticed is that people don't want to do it because they don't want to start. And by just even doing 5 or 10 minutes per day, just starting somewhere, it gets you in the habit. It's just like brushing your teeth. Then you'll start wanting to do it. You feel like, hey, I didn't exercise today. So just exercising even 10 minutes per day can make a difference. And what they're really recommending is that you walk about 8,000 steps per day, even up to 10,000 steps. And that's usually, I can use, when I was working, I was probably walking about maybe 4,000 steps per day. And just walking a little bit more will help you decrease the risk of having heart disease and diabetes and having strokes. And so this is coming from a lot of articles that researchers have shown that if you exercise, you're going to be more healthy. That's include biking, swimming, and even gardening or indoor rolling, or any type of exercise will help you. And I already quoted this one. I want to keep on saying it. They did a Harvard University alumni study, and they found that the people that exercised every hour of exercise they did, these alumni, these college alumni, they lived 2 extra hours of life. So exercise is really important. So I can't emphasize it. You just got to start doing it somewhere. Even it means 5 or 10 minutes of doing something, some exercise, walking steps, and even 10 minutes of walking per day will make a big difference for you. So that was talking about reversing diabetes and heart disease. Okay, so today's topic is talking about reversing or turning around heart disease and preventing heart disease, and introducing you to the terms that the people that take care of you for heart disease use. So for example, such as the LDL, which is low density lipoprotein, and HDL, high density lipoprotein. So let me ask you, how many people have heard that term? Okay, so a fair number of people have heard it. Okay, good. So I'll be kind of going over it. I mean, there's people that are wondering what that means. So that's what I'm going to do. Also talk about lowering cholesterol and interpreting what they call a lipid profile. A lipid profile is what your doctors are ordering for you. And so you can see what they're talking about. And it's better to start getting this under control. And I'll explain a little why it's better to get the lipids under better control so you don't have heart problems. Also, how to read food labels. And food labels are like on this box of crackers, there's a food label here. And I have some examples of food labels so you can look at them. The more you look at it, eventually it'll become more intuitive, so you understand what they're talking about on why you should look at a food label. Anyway, so this question is, what does cardiovascular disease encompass? And other names for cardiovascular disease include the following. There's coronary heart disease, cerebral vascular disease, peripheral arterial disease, and aortic atherosclerosis, and thoracic and abdominal aortic aneurysm. They all are under that category, and I'll explain that in a little more detail. But they're all under that. So these are all important terms that hopefully you don't have to run across, but if you run across, at least you know what they're talking about. So, by the way, heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States. So it's the biggest reason why people have disease. They're dying. And it says on this slide here, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in the world. And so that's why we need to learn more about it. So this is the anatomy of the heart. And it has, I know it's kind of hard to see, but this one is the right coronary artery, and this one's the left. And the right side of the heart provides, or right coronary artery provides blood supply to the right side of the heart, and the left coronary artery provides blood supply to the left side of the heart. And that's really what it comes down to. And I was quite familiar with this because my mom has coronary artery disease. That's what it is, coronary artery disease. And this is where that word bypass surgery comes by. Hopefully nobody had to have that, but there's a possibility of that. And then the use of stents. You guys heard of that? They stent the artery that's clogged. They unclog it, and then they put a stent in it to hopefully prevent it from reclogging again. So the other one is, this shows on the right-hand side, there's a slide of where there's a plaque building up on this artery that's normal, and then a plaque. So I look at it like if you had a pipe or a garden hose, and it's getting clogged up. And this is where this comes in. And when you don't have the blood supply, it's easy to get a heart attack and also have chest pain. So I'm going to slide with this one. The other one that this includes is coronary artery. So I have a plaque in my right side of my right carotid. So there's a left and right. I have a small plaque in there. They just found it incidentally because I was complaining about something, and they saw it. I also have some stuff in my heart too. When they were studying me, they found that. Yes?
What kind of a test did they do to find out how to get black?
Well, probably the best one, but you don't want to have it, is where they slide yeah, that's the best one. And the other ones, if you just run a regular CAT scan, they saw the plaque that was already developed in my heart. It wasn't really bad, and nor was it really bad in my right carotid artery. This is the one that goes up to my brain. So, okay. So this one shows that you get a stroke. That's what the cardiovascular disease or cerebral vascular accident occurs. So that's in the brain. So this one's peripheral artery disease. Who's heard of that one? Okay, people. Okay, so peripheral vascular disease is associated with a thing called claudication. I don't know if anybody's heard of that before, claudication. So it means that the arteries are getting blocked. So when you walk, you have to, a lot of people, they only walk a certain amount of distance before they start having cramping or pain in their legs, and they have to stop. Usually the same amount of distance and before it starts happening. So that's kind of unique to that. And at rest, they don't have any problems, but when they're walking, they start having this cramping sensation. And a lot of them, when they're like in the supermarket, they have to lean over when they push the shopping cart because it provides, well, it gives them more of a rest. And I kind of show this one too because this shows a stent being put in to unclog the artery. And if it gets clogged up and you don't unclog it, you're going to start having cramping. You could even suddenly have no blood flow to the leg. And that is part of the what I call the plaque. You can see it's right here. They're trying to clean that out. So this is a normal one, and this is the one that's getting clogged up. I hope nobody has that. I don't think I had that. But when I used to do a lot of amputations, and then when I go look at the artery, take a look at it, the leg I cut off, I'd see that there was cholesterol plaque in there. It would be clogged off. Some of it was almost like made from calcium, and they were that hardened, and then the other ones were more soft. So, but before we cut a leg off, usually we got somebody to come in and take a look to see if they could unclog the vessel to provide more blood supply. It also helps with healing, because the more blood supply you get, the more chance you can heal. Okay, the next one. Well, they'll go find your artery, and then they'll be under X-ray, and they'll slip a catheter, a tube, and they'll snake it down. It shows up on X-ray, and then they'll inject a dye and see it getting plugged off. and then once they find the plug site, they'll try to get it past. You see how the sharp needle right there, and get through, and then they inflate the balloon.
So is that like a stent?
Yeah, like a stent.
so
Yeah,
basically they
a stent.
stent you.
Yeah, it's very similar to the heart one. Yeah, so it's a good technique. That doesn't always work, but most time it does. Next one is aortic aneurysm. Who's heard of that? Yeah, okay. There are some people more that have heard of this. And so it's either near the heart, in the thoracic area, or the abdomen. So the way I look at it is like a garden hose. It has different layers, and the layers allow are starting to get weak, and the blood flows into there, and then the layers actually block, because it became loose, it blocks the blood flow. And sometimes it ruptures, and it's an emergency. And there are a whole different team of doctors that take care of that. So you don't want, they're all related to the same problem that we're talking about with the cholesterol and the high blood pressure and the heart disease. Okay, next one. So these are the risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So these are the risk factors. So the big six: high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, overweight, smoking, and family history. And you can see these are the risk factors. So I don't mind admitting it. I had high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. Genetics wasn't with me, and I was overweight. So I had all the risk factors. That's why I'm constantly trying to get this under control. And I figured, because I was able to get most of it under control, that I should tell people about this so they would be less likely to have this problem, or they can turn it around. The other risk factors for this include your age. As you get older, there's a problem. If you're male, I think for the males, they seem to have more issues. They have more high blood pressure, more diabetes. And a family history of this: chronic kidney disease, inactivity, and diet, the wrong kind of food you're eating, red meat and high-fat dairy diet. And then for some people, that because they have anger problems or stress problems, they seem to have more of this problem with their heart. And so these are independent risk factors. And the slide on the right shows, or this picture on the right diagram, there's ones that are modifiable, like your diet, your high blood pressure. In other words, if you control this, you can control the heart disease. And these are what they call not modifiable, like the genetics, and things that you can't control, your age. But the modifiable ones, you really want to try to get that under control. Okay, so this is the basic types of lipids. There's a high density lipoprotein, which is the good one. Okay, so you like to have a higher level with that. And you have low density lipoprotein, which is the LDL, and the really bad one. And on the right hand side, it shows a slide, not a slide, but a diagram of the cholesterol, triglyceride, and the HDL and the LDL. And it shows some numbers there, and I was going to help you interpret that. So when you see it, you know what it means and how you can try to control that. Okay, so this is just telling cholesterol is in meat. It's not in plant products. Cholesterol is in meat, but not in plant products. Your body produces some of it, but where you're going to get most of it, it's coming through is through what you eat, which is the meat products you have, because that's where cholesterol comes from. So this is a reading of food label. So I'm just going to, I think everybody has one, or you can share one of these handouts. I think everybody, oh, no, give you guys one, ladies. Anybody need one? Okay, so it's page 1. It's 1 out of 9. You'll see on the left-hand upper corner, and that's a food label. And you can see it's highlighted on number, which is 3. Is the cholesterol is 120 milligrams, And if you look a little bit to the side, it says that's 40% of your daily requirements. So this food item, I think it was a piece of meat or something, has a lot of cholesterol. 40% of your daily requirements is already by one serving. That's what it means. So if you look up at number 1 up there, it says the serving size is only 4 ounces, and there's 4 servings per container, and it's 280 calories. That 280 calories, which is not a lot of calories, but it has a lot of fat in it, particularly saturated fats. So the saturated fats are the usually comes from meat, and it's a bad fat for you. And it also talks about trans fat. And when this food label was printed, it calls. Here, let me help you with that. Oh, okay, you got it. There's trans fats, and trans fats are absolutely bad. They outlawed it now. So in the United States, you can't. They don't put it into the food anymore. But it's a fat that is artificially made almost. And so you do not want trans fats if it somehow slipped through the system. But saturated fats, again, are not good fats. Those are the ones that are contributing to all the problems we're having. Also, it says cholesterol is 120 milligrams, and that's 40%, nearly half of your daily intake, daily percentage of the daily value. That's 40%. That's quite a bit. So if you eat 2 servings, you got 80% of all the cholesterol you really need to get. And it also talks about total carbohydrates, and it has sugars are 0 grams, which is fine. And one that it's not on here, but you don't want one that says added sugar. Added sugar means they added it on. Americans like sugar, and I like sugar. And so they add sugar onto your diet, and they're required to put it down. So some of the sugar is naturally found in it, because like if you have a fruit, it's a dried prune or something, it may be just normal amount of sugar, but the sugar, when they have to add it on, means they didn't have to add it on, but they did add it on for you. So you don't want the ones that have added sugar if you can help it. Sometimes when I see 2 products, we had corn tortilla, those not rolls, but not chips, but those pancake-looking things. One will have added sugar, and the other one have no added sugar. They almost look identical, and they taste identical. Yeah, so you really don't want to have added sugar to it. Okay, so that's the first part about reading a food label. And they're all, in all these kind of labels, they're all required to have it now. Before, they didn't have to have that. Okay, so there are 2 types of cholesterol, HDL and LDL. And the main thing is, this slide shows is the LDL that's coming from the liver goes to the blood vessel. It leads to deposition of plaques in the blood vessel. And the HDL, which is the good cholesterol, goes from the blood vessel to the liver to be eliminated. So one brings the cholesterol to your blood vessels, and the other one takes it away from the blood vessel. So you want the HDL. Now I see Ryan over there that's very young. He probably doesn't even have a problem with this and doesn't even have to worry about it. But when you get...
Looking at this stuff every year on my blood.
Are you? Yeah. This is so, when you're younger, you don't even have an issue with it. But when you get older, man, this starts showing up. Okay, so foods to avoid if you have high cholesterol. So if you have high cholesterol, you don't want to be eating fried chicken, French fries. Or just you have to moderate this better. Egg yolks are really bad. Ice cream is really bad because of dairy products. And red meat and shellfish have a lot of cholesterol in it. So you can cut back on it. It doesn't mean you can't eat any of it, but it's better to take what we call a plant-based diet. Okay, next slide. These are the recommended levels of cholesterol. I do have it on here. It's on page 2 of 9, which is the next page. And it just shows you what the levels are. And in a moment, I'll show you a profile, and it's actually my profile. But So ideal for cholesterol is under 150. Did everybody see that one? Ideal for the LDL is under 75. Under 75. So they list the LDL intentionally because the LDL is the bad one. So if you look at cholesterol, it's a combination HDL and LDL and the triglyceride. So there's 3 parts to it. So in other words, if the LDL is a component of the cholesterol, so cholesterol has LDL added on there. That's how they get the number. They get the total number. So you want a low LDL. You want a low cholesterol. You can tolerate a higher HDL, but you want the lower number. So you saw the number. So if you look on page 3, which is 3 out of 9, there's a picture of a lipid panel there. Everybody on page, yep, you got, everybody looks like they're on it. Page 3 out of 9, lipid panel. This was done in 2018. I have my friend Dr. Tan over there. He was the one who ordered this thing. And you see the lipid panel. It says cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, and LDL. Is everybody there? Yeah. So the cholesterol was 180. So it'd be ideal would be under 150. And the triglyceride was 121. Now, I will just tell you that it's within range, but it's still high. The HDL was 57. I don't have a number for that, but you can see it's greater than 50, or 40, excuse me. That's good. They like a high number for that. And the LDL is 99, which is, well, you want it under 75. So this is not a good profile. And that was my profile in 2018. So what I'm going to do is, so I would say that's not a good profile. I'm going to have Ken, my friend over here, look at page 4 out of 9. So the next page. So this one is in, so I'm going to have Ken read it back to me. 2022. In 2022, so 3 years later, by that time I was a vegan, you know, so I cut out any source of cholesterol. So Ken, what you got? Cholesterol is 129. Yeah, 129. Previously it was 180. So it was from 180 to 129 by just cutting out the meat, because I was eating meat. I was a very good barbecuer. I knew how to do it. Yeah, I know. I was barbecuing all the time. The triglycerides, I'll just tell you, it's supposed to be under 150. Oh, and actually, you can see what the number is. Yeah, 57. 57. And it previously was, 99, looks like 99. So it dropped from 99 to 57. And the HDL, 65. So it was 57 before, yeah. And the LDL was 52 down from 99. Yeah, 52 down from 99. So this is a better profile. And the only thing was I went vegan or vegetarian. I just cut out that meat. So that's one way of trying to control it, is through diet. And I'll explain some other ways that people try to lower their cholesterol, get a better profile. Okay, so contributors to high cholesterol: being overweight, high protein diets, particularly pork, beef, milk, whole eggs. The whole eggs are the worst, particularly the yellow portion of the egg, you know, the yolk. Saturated fats, which come from meats. Trans fats, so those are called hydrogenated vegetable oil. So they used to have the vegetable oils used to be hydrogenated. You know why they did that? To keep them the better shelf life. Yeah, it was a better shelf life if you had a hydrogenated vegetable oil. It'll last longer. So I understand the manufacturers trying to keep their vegetable oils from spoiling. So they made it trans fats. And processed foods like cookies, crackers, many baked goods, vegetable shortenings and margins, and those are all bad. And fast foods like French fries, onions, rings, and inactivity, and McDonald's. I used to go to McDonald's. So that was pretty bad. Okay, so, and how to reduce it? It's very simple. Eliminate cholesterol in the diet, and mostly from animal products. And don't get me wrong, people do eat animal products. They have meat and stuff, but just you got to cut back on it. Particularly if your cholesterol is off. And there are people that have cholesterol. It seems to be produced by the body too much. I think that's what I have. I mean, even if I cut off the cholesterol from the meats, it still comes through my system. Yeah, genetics to it. So it's increase your antioxidants in your diet. Mostly it's in vegetables and fruits. Antioxidants like blueberries, strawberries. So increase your fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and nuts, and get a regular, low-impact, moderate exercise. Moderate exercise. Just start some kind of program. Just walk every day. Get into the habit of it. Next one is I kind of wish we had one of the church members who was really interested, because I think she does a lifestyle clinic. This was an important study that came out. It's called Reversing Heart Disease Through Lifestyle. So now I'm talking about even after you get the heart disease. I'm not talking about preventing it. I'm talking about once you get it, how do you reverse it? So in other words, you think it's too late once you have the disease. Well, how would you turn it around? So again, the heart disease is the #1 killer in the U.S. And this study was in 1998. Dean Ornish proved that heart disease could be reversed with diet and lifestyle. So in other words, you have the disease and you're trying to get rid of it. And so what he did was only had 28 patients, experimental group, and 20 patients in the standard diet. So the experimental group was the group the good group. The good group underwent a low-fat vegetarian diet, not a vegan, low-fat vegetarian, stopped smoking, stress management, moderate exercise. And the 20 patient in the standard diet was they just did what they were normally doing. And they found that that 82% of the experimental group, which is the good group, had regression of the coronary lesions. So the stuff that was blocking up the arteries had reversed, had turned back. And while the control group, the group that still ate what they wanted to eat and no exercise, their heart disease progressed, and they had twice as many cardiac events, meaning they had heart attacks. They had more strokes. And so, and they had the proof by, they actually had even the good group undergo a second cardiac cath. That's hard to convince people to go back and say, hey, we want to thread a catheter up to your heart and inject dye in there and take a look at it. So they did this. It was an important study. This was down in California. And I don't know how they convinced those people to do that, but they did this study again twice. Of course, the group that probably had was eating normal, still eating the meat. What happened to them was that they had to get the study again because they had another heart attack. So they were what they do is they're recatheterizing them, sliding that catheter up to their heart and injecting dye to take a look at it. So basically, it showed that the heart disease could be reversed just solely by watching what you eat and exercising and by lifestyle. That's what they call it. And there was a paper, it was published in JAMA. JAMA's, I say it's a very good journal. I mean, in other words, if you get published in there, you must have done a very good study. So, reversing heart disease. Now, this one's another one, just came out this month. And This study was identical twin study. And this is a vegan diet versus omnivore diet. Omnivore diet means you're eating meat and vegetables, but mostly meat. And the benefits of it. It came from Stanford University. It was published also in JAMA in 2023. I think it's in November. And they had a twin study. It was identical twin. And they lived in the same household. And they could only get 23 sets or 22 sets of these people. And what they did was they studied them for 8 weeks. Now, I'm going to ask, I think Ken probably knows, why do you think they had identical twins?
Rule out the variability between genetic.
That's right, yeah. To rule out genetic variability. So in other words, if I had someone here, say, like Wes had something when he did, and then I had Phil over here had something, you could always say, well, it's because they were genetically or they didn't have a good enough lifestyle, but they all lived in the same home, and they had the identical genes. So that eliminated genetics as a possibility of this thing. So this study said they had 4 weeks of vegan diet, 4 weeks of omnivore type diet, and which included beans, fruits, whole grains, no sugar, no refined starches. And the omnivore diet included chicken, fish, eggs, cheese, dairy products, and animal source food. And then, so after 8 weeks of this, it was only 8 weeks. It wasn't a year. They didn't study it for 3 years. After 1 or 8 weeks, they found that the vegan diet had a significant decrease in the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and they also had a lower fasting insulin. So lower fasting insulin means, lower fasting insulin means that you're not that prone to having diabetes. I didn't know that neither. So basically, you're less risk for diabetes, and they lost an average of 4.2 more pounds than the omnivores over a 8-week period. So even in a short 8-week period, these identical twins had differences because what they ate, which is vegan, versus eating an omnivore diet, which had meat in it. So for this, that's why this study got published. It wasn't a lot of patients, but they got published. And so their conclusion was that these people, the vegan diet people, had cut back on saturated fats, increased their dietary fiber, and lost weight. And that's how it came about. And the author concluded that what is more important than going strictly vegan is including more plant-based foods in your diet. So in other words, you don't have to be 100% vegan. If you just include more plant-based foods in your diet, you get a benefit, because the omnivores also lost weight, and they also lost or decreased their bad cholesterol. Not as good as the regular vegan people. In addition to that, they also noticed that they had a less of a telomere loss, which slows down aging in the body. So in other words, his conclusion is, hey, if you do this, you'll live, you won't age as fast by going vegan instead of eating meats, or at least try to cut back on it. That was his conclusion. So that was an important study. This came out just only a month ago. Okay, risk factors for cardiovascular disease, rare. Talked about cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, obesity. There's also a thing called inflammation. And so inflammation is really important. They didn't teach me that a long time ago. But inflammation is now becoming recognized as causing all types of diseases. Inflammation is well, it's associated with diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, strokes, things like lupus. I don't know if you've heard of lupus. It's an inflammatory disease. And so they have a test out there. In fact, Dr. Tan ordered that one for me. I didn't even know he ordered it. It's called HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. That's what CRP stands for. And it can be helpful. It can. I'm not saying it is absolutely predictive of developing cardiovascular disease such as stroke or sudden death. It's a blood test. They're ordering more and more of it. And it's a marker for inflammation. It doesn't mean you're going to predict 100% for heart disease, but it helps you understand that, hey, maybe you have inflammation in the system. And so I was going to use myself again as an example. So on page 5 out of 9, I'll wait for everybody to get there. So I'm going to have Dr. Tan say it if he doesn't. So page 5 out of 9. I don't know if you recognize this lab you ordered for me. 5 out of 9. So HSCRP. So you see the value on there, Thomas? Yeah. So it was a 2.7, and its average risk, that was 1 to 3. That was in 2018. So in 2018, when he drew this thing, I had average risk, was heading toward the high risk area. In other words, this is kind of predicting people that might end up having a stroke or a heart attack. It's looking for it. It's not what you call specific, but it can. And then if you look on page 6 out of 9, in 6 out of 9, I'll let you all turn to that page. If you look down there, there's a C-reactive protein cardiac, and that was 2022. This is after I had gone vegan. I stopped eating meats, and I was much more careful what I ate. And if you look at it, it's less than 0.15. In other words, they had trouble measuring it. Where before I was running 2.7, which put me at risk, average risk for having heart disease or a stroke. So, well, I guess the message I'm getting from this is, hey, if you watch what you're eating and start exercising more, you can reverse the risk for heart disease and other things that are associated with inflammation. Okay, so again, it's a marker for inflammation. It could be also a marker for cancer. It could be a marker for lupus. It could be a marker for all kinds of stuff. So it's not 100% specific, but a lot of times they're using it for cardiac reasons because they think it'll help predict it. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. Okay, inflammation, things that cause inflammation is lack of exercise, dehydration, lack of sleep, heavy metals such as lead, mercury, and nickel, toxins, excessive salt, overeating, and obesity. So it's almost the same thing for heart disease. One thing I did notice since I've been doing this, that the things that cause heart disease and the solution for it is the same thing for elevating cholesterol is the same thing for like diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. What it means, the solution, what causes is almost the same, and the solution is also the same. It's amazing that they all interconnected together. So if you take care of one thing, you'll be addressing the other things that can be causing you problems, ranging from diabetes, high blood pressure, and all this. Okay, inflammation causes include processed meats, and processed meats are bad. I'm going to say that because in order to preserve that meat, they had to do a lot of things to make that meat be able to, so it doesn't spoil. And I'm sure you heard that before. So it includes beef jerky, hot dogs, sausages. It's better to eat a natural piece of meat, something that didn't have to put a lot of salt or sugar into it. Refined grains is like a Hostess Twinkie or something, or Wonder Bread. It's better to have a normal piece of bread. Refined sweets like high fructose corn syrup, that's refined. It was manufactured. It wasn't, but that's in a lot of candies and a lot of donuts and stuff. Fructose, I'm sure you heard that. High fat diet and diet soda. going to say a few words about diet soda. In diet soda, they had a study, it was a 9-year study at the University of Iowa. 60,000 women were studied, and they were drinking. They found out that when they're drinking diet soda, those who consumed 2 cans of diet soda had a 30% increase of having a heart attack versus the ones that didn't drink at all. So a 30% increased risk just by drinking diet soda. And there was a 50% risk of premature death with 2 cans of soda, diet soda per day. And the same with the diet soda people actually had weight gain is about the same as people that drank regular soda. So it really didn't benefit them much. But they had more risk from having a heart attack or just dying suddenly for no explanation. And they studied these women for 9 years, 60,000 of them. In addition to that, diet soda causes kidney problems, rotting of teeth, and what I was going to say, it also causes, messes up your metabolism. Anyway, so diet soda is not good. There's another one here, I just want to bring this one up. It's about inflammation. In 2004, they had a study at UCLA, and they studied women, and they had a 3-week wellness program, including exercise, plant-based diet, and they still have this program at UCLA because it was that successful. Anyway, it was a 3-week program of exercise and plant-based diet. They're all going toward plant-based diets. And in the end, there was like a 40% dropping in that cardiac CRP, the one I just showed you, that I had dropped also. And that's only in 3 weeks. They had a 40% drop in the results. And it was better than a 30% drop if you took medications by mouth. So if you do it naturally by diet and exercise, it does a better job than if you took a medicine to take care of it. That was their conclusion. And again, it was a 2004 study. And you can see that most of these are all talking about plant-based diets and exercise. This talks about cholesterol plaques. So this is, if you look at this diagram on the very top, the blood flow is normal. Pretty soon the cholesterol starts piling up, starts blocking it. And then when it blocks it entirely, there is no blood flow. That could be in the heart, it could be in the leg. And what it is this cholesterol causes damage through the blood vessels because there's what they call free radicals. When we're talking about free radicals, that's why antioxidants can help you and lowering your cholesterol. And so if you have a cholesterol less than 150, the damage to the vessel heals faster. And you had a cholesterol greater than 180. In fact, that's what mine was 4 years ago, was 180. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, the LDL, which is the low density lipoprotein. This will cause this to progress faster. Basically, that's what it is. So lower cholesterol is beneficial. And this shows on this diagram a normal artery, one that has some cholesterol in it. This one shows the cholesterol starting to build up, and then you have the half the flow cut off. So that means that when you try to exercise or anything, you're going to have trouble with blood flow to the heart. And same thing with coronary artery disease and cholesterol. So if anytime you have reduction of blood flow to the heart, you're going to have what they call angina with the exertion, or you have something stressful happen to you, or some people have actually had it from just eating a fatty meal. A fatty meal may block this off. So it usually happens during the holidays because they're eating something big and they decide to eat more than they should. And they've even done one where person drank a glass of dairy cream at rest and started having heart pain. And you can also get exposure to cold weather because the arteries will start, because they're already narrowed down, there's spasms in the artery, and those spasms will then close off, and you'll start getting angina pain. Angina means pain in the chest. Okay, this one's about Framingham study. Who's heard of that one? Framingham study? I'm sure some of them have. This was in Massachusetts, in Framingham study. They picked that city in the United States because they wanted to find out what was causing heart disease. That's basically what it was. They didn't know where it was coming from. They thought because everybody would get heart disease if they grew old. So if you grew old, you're going to have heart disease. That was their original conclusion. But they wanted to prove it. They wanted to find out. So they started in 1948. They had 3,200 men and women, and it was evaluated every 2 years to find out who died and who didn't die and how they died. And they recruited future generations on it. And what they came to a conclusion, one was, that was important, if you have a cholesterol level under 150, there was nobody in that subgroup under 150 cholesterol that died from a heart attack or heart disease. So that was really important to them. So if you have a cholesterol under greater than 150, you have more risk. So like my risk 4 years ago was 180. I was running 180. So, but I've got it down like 120 now. So it's better to get this down. Okay. So this was from the Journal of the American Heart Association. They followed for 35 years, like almost 4,000 adults. And they found that if you have a high LDL, you had 5 times the rate of heart disease and 4 times the mortality of individuals with optimal LDL levels. So if you had bad cholesterol, if you let it go on for a long time, you have 5 times the risk of having some kind of sudden death, or excuse me, 4 times the risk of having sudden death. So idea is to control the LDL, get that under control. And they've shown that heart disease can be silent, meaning that you don't even know you have it. So when they ran that CAT scan on me, I didn't know I had anything wrong with my heart. I thought it was normal in my heart. I thought I had other kind of problems. And they saw the plaque already developing there. So that's why I've been very careful. Again, cholesterol is only found in animal foods. It's not in plant foods. And other things that contribute to heart disease are saturated fats or trans fats. So you should cut back on the saturated fats. I showed you a food label that had saturated fats in there. You should try to minimize that as much as you can. Okay, there's triglycerides. So triglycerides is different from cholesterol. And they have different types of problems, but they also contribute to heart disease. And if you look on this column right here, it has triglycerides. And I'm going to show you a slide that has the level for it. So again, triglycerides, ideal is under 150. And I'm going to ask Ken for this one. If you look at slide number 7-9, there's the risk for triglycerides. Ideal is under 150. And then, Ken, would you look back at that lipid profile that we had before? The one on 2018 on page number 3. Yeah, so I was okay with that one, 121. And after I went on became vegan, in 2022, the triglyceride was, page 4. 57. So if it dropped from 122 or whatever to 57. So it is possible to lower your cholesterol so you don't have this problem. What I'm trying to do is actually reverse what they did, that important study to show you can reverse heart disease. Yeah.
What determines these guideline numbers? Because we can see that they're not necessarily the safe numbers.
I think if they, so Ken was asking me what it would take to revise the numbers. As far as I know, the only way they can revise it if they had another study that was done really well, they would take over that. I have to agree, they're not perfect numbers. I think the profiles are not. Yeah, they're not perfect. Yeah, it's a government food recommendation. So they have nothing else to go by. So, well, I know what you're asking though. Yeah. So, and then the medications for cholesterol have side effects. And let me just list a couple of them. One is Lipitor, number is lovastatin, Crestor, simvastatin. Those are all cholesterol drugs. They do have some side effects. They have a list of them here. I'm not going to go all of them, but the most common one is muscle pain and muscle aching. But they do have some issues, so it's better to try it natural if you can. To lower your cholesterol, again, eliminate animal products, increase the antioxidants in your diet. Remember what they are. They're usually fruits and vegetables. Vitamins A, C, and E, and flavonoids and phytonutrients, and increase your fruits and vegetables, and a regular low impact, moderate exercise. That's really what it is to lower it. Sorry, somebody say, yeah.
Now, does it matter on organic or not organic?
I don't think it matters that much, but I prefer organic if I can get it. If I had two prices, I don't know. What's your preference? You try to get organic. Yeah, I try to get organic as much as I can too. Yeah, I do. But sometimes they're so expensive, so I'm stuck.
Sometimes they don't have it.
Yeah, or they don't have it exactly. Yeah, so I prefer organic if I can, or I have to wash everything really carefully. There was another study. So basically, it was from the British Medical Journal, and had 40,000 men, and they showed that if you take what is known as alpha-linoleic fatty acids, which is also known as omega-3, also known as vitamin F, if you have foods that have a lot of it, which is usually flax seeds, walnuts, and soy milk, kiwi, tofu, there's even more than this. There's a lot of foods that have it. It does help reduce heart disease. So actually, I do take a lot of flaxseed, and I'm doing everything to try to reverse this because I know I have it, the disease I'm talking about. So alpha-linoleic fatty acids. So it's a fatty acids and omega-3. I'm going to flip this thing here. Okay. This was from the University of Toronto, and they had 350 participants, and what they noticed was that if you take a diet that emphasizes foods like plants and soy proteins and fruits and nuts, you could lower your cholesterol. That is the same or better than if you took a medication. So again, it's another study that shows if you do it naturally, you can get down pretty low. You can get as low as the medications do. And it also was published in JAMA in 2011. So it had to be a good study in order to get that far to get published. So foods with lower cholesterol include fruits, whole grains, beans, vegetables, nuts, more fiber, and garlic. Okay, so I've come down to this. I'm going to go through a couple things here. I'm going to go through slide number, or page number 7. Oh, not 7, 8, sorry. So 8 is a food label. So go through page 8. So there's the food here. It has, just take a look at it. It has a total fat in it. It's 10 grams. It says that's about 13% of your daily requirements. has saturated fat of 10 grams or 6 grams. So 6 out of 10 grams is saturated, which means it's most likely an animal product. That's the only way you can get that kind of saturated fat. So that constitutes 30% of your daily requirements. And for cholesterol, you have 10%, which is not bad. And then the sodium is 200 milligrams, which is 9% of your daily requirement. So a lot of people don't like sodium, which is the salt, basically. And this shows you, hopefully explains to you how to read these labels on this one. So I'm going to flip over to 8 out of 9. Or, yeah. Oh, is that a cheese? Yeah. Yeah, cheese cube, you're right. One cheese cube has all that. And believe me, I love cheese. Okay, page 9, or 9. This one, I brought this one up because you look on page 9 out of 9. Yes, 9 out of 9. So this is helping. Okay, so this is 1 cup, and each serving has 2 servings per container, 250 calories per serving, and calories from the fat is 110, which is half the number of calories is from fat. So the total fat was 12 grams, 18% of your daily requirements. The saturated fats, so in other words, the animal product again, is 15%, and it has some trans fat. It says 3 grams. If you notice, it's not recommended you have any. That's why they didn't say your daily requirement. And your cholesterol was 30 milligrams, and that's 10% of your daily requirements. And sodium was 470 milligrams, is 20% of your daily requirements. So I mean, it has a lot of salt in it, has saturated fats in there, and it also has sugar in it. It has 5 grams. Now the new food labels have. It says it will tell you if they added the sugar or it was naturally in there. So in other words, I'm sorry, I got the old labels, but the new food labels tell you if they added that sugar for you. And so if you see it added, you probably should go pick the one that didn't have it added. And also, if you look to the side, it says if it has, see, 5% or less is low and 20% or more is high. In other words, when you see something that says your total fat is 18%, that's getting very high. And if you have less than 5%, it's low. So I just give you a reference value on here. So these are reading food labels. You just got to pick them up and look at them. Because I used to never look at them, but after I started paying more attention to what I was eating, I started reading the labels more carefully. Okay. So one thing I'm going to say again, I've always included this slide, is you have faith and trust in God, because that's the most important thing of all these values that we talk about, from diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. I'm going to take the next slide. And you have to have patience. This takes a while to work. Now, sometimes it works really fast, but other times you might have to hang out on it for a year to try to get this under control. You may get frustrated and say, well, this is not working or something, but you just have to, because it took a long time for it to take effect. Like by the time I started having the heart disease and the cholesterol and the diabetes and high blood pressure, that had been in effect for probably 55 years. I wasn't paying attention to it. And again, one more thing, we're not trying, not trying to live longer, but you're trying to have better quality of life living longer. I mean, you don't really want to live longer and have a lot of problems and pain and suffering. You'd rather have longer life that you don't have the suffering component to it. And some of this could be, because if you end up with a stroke or heart attack, you're really limited in what you can do in life. So you really want to get that under control So that's really what we're doing. We're trying to get you a better quality of life. So have patience and trust in God. And if you have any suggestions, I got for Ruth or the blood pressure crew with Becky back there and Patsy, all nurses, they're checking your blood pressure. Let us know. And of course, Phil, my good friend here, he's done this before, and he was dealing with this all the time. And we're very appreciative of Arjul, our audiovisual person, for all things he does. Again, this is now videoed and stored and for the first time. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, so future talks on high blood pressure and heart disease, exercise, losing weight, cancer, arthritis. So those will be future talks. Okay, I think we're actually ahead of time, so that's great. Yeah, Thomas?
Yeah, can you add fish on your top? Adding fish to the diet on your top?
Oh, I think so, yeah. I think fish is, if I was going to pick a meat, if I had to have something, I'd take fish. Is that what you're referring to? It seems to be more healthier.